Alright, just another few moments, guys, if anyone's watching. I am currently just putting together the last minute things. I just got home from work a few minutes ago, so I'm just doing the last things I need to do. Chat going. And I need one more thing from my sheets. All right. Okay. I think I'm ready to. I think we're ready. Alright, welcome back to another episode, or I should say welcome back to another live stream of Exposing D&D 5e Monsters Challenge Ratings Live. And today we're going to look at a couple items that have been requested by people. So over here, as I had before, I already switched out some of the monsters, so I haven't gone in and done my Sunday yet, because Sunday is usually reserved for looking back at some of the older videos that I had done. So last week, well, I should say a couple days ago was yesterday was the Hook Horror. Next Sunday will be another video just going in the line until I've caught up with all of my old videos that were kind of on the slow side. So I think next might be the Thornslinger. I don't remember. We're getting to the end, and then eventually on Sundays I'll have that free to start looking at more custom monsters, or not custom monsters, but just to say that I'll have more time to look at other monsters beyond ones that I've already covered. And then Wednesday I reserve for the Creature Codex supplement, since that one is generally a massive, just all over the place chaos with what's going on. Hey, Frigid Gold, how you doing? Thanks for joining up. I'm just kind of going over my plan of attack here. This is my current release schedule for this week. And this is going to be next week's release schedule. So I'm going to take a look at some of these requested monsters live. And unless you have a request yourself, we'll just start from the top here. So if you got anything, definitely throw it in chat and I will take a look at it as soon as possible. All right, so let's see here. Just to go back, the Vine Blight was a requested item, and that's in the Monsters Manual. And let me see here, get my books out. Monster Manual here. Shrink that up a bit so I can see what's going on. Oh, why did that do that? Hate it when it does that. There we go. Let's try this again. Alright, Monster Manual, Vine Blight. Here we go. And it's part of the vampiric trees and bushes and whatnot. Alright, so this one shouldn't be too terribly difficult to look over. If this is your first time seeing some of my live streams and my other videos, Frigid Gold, I have a tool that I've developed based off of something I've seen in the past, and I've added and tweaked it to my specifications. So I have some things going on here. Initially what we have is the defensive and offensive sections that I'm going to be adding in from the monster, as well as any kind of traits it has. The green section is going to be the areas that are actually the results of what we find based off of the items over here. There are a bunch of monster traits, and I've added in a couple of my own that I like to see. For instance, like Shield. This is a big one amongst all casters. So I like to have that in there and adding it in without having to modify the AC on its own. Off to the right here is the monster stats by challenge rating, and this chart is actually found in the DMG, or somewhere around page 280 or so. It's somewhere after that. But what's nice is I have it color coded here, And the red is for the offenses, the blue is for the defenses, and the green is for the final challenge rating that we find. And what's great is that as the calculations are being made, you're going to see these colors jump all around. And then off to the side, I have the combat workspace. So if, for instance, our monster has a whole bunch of different attacks that it can do, especially for legendary monsters like dragons and such, we can add that all in and then put in the full attack based off of the first 3 rounds of combat, and that will immediately throw the number into the DPR for damage per round. And after that, it's just a matter of changing some things. And with that little bit of an introduction out of the way, let's jump into this Vine Blight and see what we get. Alright, so our Vine Blight is a medium plant, and it has a base armor class of 12. So already this is going to be some pretty low numbers here, considering we're looking for a CR 1/2 as we see here in the skills section. So we'll throw in the CR 1/2, and then we'll update it with 4d8 hit dice and a constitution of 14. I'm not going to worry about wisdom and charisma. As I explained before, these are for special traits. As you see in the box here, charisma is only for the fiendish blessing, and wisdom is only for the psychic defense. So I'm not going to bother putting those in because I know my Vine Blight doesn't have those. And now that we have its basic information out of the way, we can skip the speed because the speed doesn't matter. We will skip over all of its stats. We don't need those except for basically constitution most of the times. And then we look at the skills section. Well, we actually have some skills of stealth +1. We don't care about that. And the condition immunities actually don't matter. In the DMG for custom monster creation, it says right off the bat that, you know, conditions are nice to have, condition immunities, but they take no effect into the monster whatsoever. So basically we can skip over this whole section here because we don't care about its senses or its language either. What we do care about is the trait here, false appearance. Now, if you were to actually look for false appearance here in the trait section of my tool, you're going to see that, well, false appearance isn't here. That's because false appearance, unfortunately, has no effect on the monster, even though it basically gets like perfect stealth as long as it's not moving. So we don't really care about that. Let's move down into the actions that the Vine Blight has. Now our first action here is Constrict, and Constrict is a melee weapon attack with a +4 to hit, so let's throw the +4 in here and see what we get. Already we don't really have much in the way of movement here, but when it does hit one target, it will deal 9 bludgeoning damage, and a large or smaller creature is grappled. So we do have a little extra bit of information here for the Constrict, which is great. So first off, let's go ahead and add in our 9 points of damage for our first attack in the combat workspace. And then we can come back over to the monster's traits and look for the Constrict ability, because that's what gives us the bonus for allowing grappled and restrained conditions on attacks, as you'll see by the example of the giant constrictor snake here. So we click that trait, we'll get a +1 effective AC bonus to our Vine Blight, which only shifts it from a 12 to a 13, which is already the expected AC, I already know, at such a low CR level. And that's everything for the Constrict ability. But what about its once every 3 turns Entangle Plants ability here, which has a recharge of 5 to 6? Well, its grasping roots and vines sprout in a 15-foot radius, centered on the blight, withering away after 1 minute. For the duration, the area is difficult terrain. Creatures in there, yada yada yada. I don't really care about that. Any creatures in the area where the plants appear must succeed a strength saving throw. Here we see. Must succeed on a DC 12 strength saving throw or become restrained. Okay. A creature can use its actions to make a DC 12 strength check, freeing itself from the creature's entangled creature, and so on. Alright, so this is another ability that would allow the monster to deal, not really deal damage, but just restrain creatures from getting to the Vine Blight. And since it's not really doing damage, I'm not going to worry too much about the Entangling Plants ability. If anything, I would say it would give a minimum of maybe +2 effective AC, similar to the constricting ability. But probably what we're really concerned about is the constrict damage. So for its all 3 rounds of combat, we're going to just use its first attack here, which is going to be the 9 points of damage. All right. Because I've added in the 9 points of damage to each round of combat, it gets translated to the full attack, which is a total of 9 points of damage every round. And so for every round of combat, on average, our Vine Blight is doing 9 points of damage. Well, as we can see here in the green section, our OCR is a 1 and our DCR is a 1/8. And that's going to average out to a 1/2, which is exactly what we expect for this printed CR 1/2 Vine Blight. Looking over here on the right side, we'll see that well, we got 26 hit points. 26 hit points is our base DCR rating, which nets us a DCR 1/8 and expecting an AC of 13. Because of the ability to restrain and its low AC to begin with of 12, the +1 from the constrict ability bumps it up to a 13, and that gives us a 13 right off with no change to the DCR whatsoever. So our DCR is a set 1/8 due to the fact that it has actually decent hit points, just kind of low AC. So the Vine Blight will take maybe 1 or 2 attacks, but won't have any kind of way to really fend off those attacks because of the low AC. Now our damage, on the other hand, as we see here in the red, is based off of the 9 damage per round right here, and it's actually on the low end for this, but it still equals an OCR of a 1 base right off that. And the OCR 1 is expecting an attack bonus of 3. Our Vine Blight has an attack bonus of 4, which is good. It's not that much higher. And actually, I'm kind of curious where... Oh yeah, no, I see where that came from. The 4 is coming from the 2 proficiency bonus, as well as the 2 strength. So that's where the +4 to hit is coming from. So it's only 1 over the expected, which translates into a 0 shift because we basically only look at every even interval, or basically just dividing the average in half of the 2 numbers of the expected minus the effective. And the effective in this case is the 4 attack bonus because we have nothing modifying our attack bonus for the Vine Blight. So our Vine Blight, once we take the 1/2 plus the 1/8, it's only going to be 1.125. Dividing that in half, it's going to be like 5.50 or something to that effect. 1.125 divided by 2. Yeah, 0.5625, and we round to the closest CR rating. In this case, it's 1/2. So our Vine Blight is an even CR 1/2, thankfully. The funny part is the person that messaged me about this was really worried about TPKing their party. I guess they're just starting a campaign out, and they didn't want their players to die to a couple Vine Blights in case the challenge rating wasn't correct. Luckily in this case, it is correct. So whenever they get a chance to see this video, or if they only see the shorts either on YouTube or TikTok, they will have a nice surprise knowing that their players were perfectly safe up against these Vine Blights of CR 1/2. So I'm going to take a moment here and record this. What we got here? Oh, let me just... There we go. Vine Blight. So A. And we had a 1/8 for its CR rating, DCR rating, a 1 for its OCR, and we found a 1/2. Which is nice and even with no notes. Okay. All right, there we go. CR 1/2 Vine Blight. All right, back to our list. The next monster we have for Tuesday would be the Green Hag. And I guess we can take a look at the Green Hag next. This will take a little bit more time because the Green Hag has magic, but thankfully, due to the recommendations of someone else on the comments here on YouTube, they gave me the idea to go through all the damaging spells and list them all out. So I have gone through, it took me a couple hours to do this, but I went through every spell that does damage and found out what their average damage is, thankfully. So that's super helpful, as we'll see here in a minute when I get the Green Hag going. Alright, so our Green Hag is a CR3 from the Monster Manual. Alright, since we're in the Monster Manual here, let's look for the Green Hag. Perfect. There we are. And there is our Green Hag with a basket of mutilated body parts and a heart in its hand. In their hand, excuse me. Alright, let me zoom in a little more, just so we have a better look at the Green Hag here. Alright. Now we'll go back to the CR tool, reset that, and get started again with the Green Hag this time. Okay, actually I want to take one quick note here. 6:18, roughly 18 minutes in. Okay. That way I know for when I break this video down later. Alright, our Green Hag is a medium Fey, so we don't have to worry about changing the medium size, and they are also a CR3. So we'll swap that to 3 for any kind of traits that may be expecting the CR rating to modify the hit points and whatnot. Our Hag has a natural armor class of AC 17 and 11 D8 hit dice with a constitution of 16. And that's pretty much all the defenses except for whatever we might have here on the side. Again, we skip over the speed, the skill, the stats, and the skills section because there's only skills, senses, and languages, which we don't care about, unfortunately. Next, we'll move down into the trait section here, and it's Boom Shakalaka. Hello. Can't watch, but wanted to stop by and say hi. Keep up the grind. I am Boom Shakalaka. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you just popping in and saying hi. If there's any monsters you'd like to see later on from this live stream, just leave it in chat before you go. Alright, going back to the Green Hag. Amphibious is just no effect. I mean, it lets the Hag breathe air and water, which is really cool, but has no bearing whatsoever on our monster CR value. And again, you'll see that if you look for Amphibious in the list here, I don't put it in because it doesn't do anything. Next, we have innate spellcasting. And we do have a little bit of spellcasting here. Do we have any more? No, we only have that. Wow, okay. So our innate spellcasting is just Dancing Lights, Minor Illusion, and Vicious Mockery. And that's going to be cast, I guess, at base, which is only a D4 point of damage. Well, I will throw that in here, which is just going to equal 2.5 for the Vicious Mockery. And they also have Dancing Lights and Minor Illusion, which sadly don't really do anything for this, for the purposes of determining the challenge rating here. But we can see, though, already with the defenses that the Hag has, we're already looking at a DCR of 3 from the dark blue here in the modifications. So I'll cover that a little later on. And then the last trait that our Green Hag has is Mimicry. And unfortunately, Mimicry is also another trait that just has no effect or bearing whatsoever. Again, if you want to verify the items I'm talking about here and having no effect whatsoever, you want to look in the DMG somewhere after probably page 282. It's a little further down in the custom monster section. And there's just a huge, almost 2-page list of traits that, well, actually all the traits during the time of when the books were first released. Sadly, there are new traits that can't be accounted for, but, you know, it is what it is. Let's see here. Frigid, what did you say? But behind in the VOD, but thanks for the evaluation. Oh, yeah, no problem, man. You're welcome. Alright, so these are all the traits that our Green Hag has. There's really nothing else to it. It's just some defenses and one spell for Vicious Mockery, which, you know, we may be able to use a little later on. So let's take a look at the actions of our Green Hag and see what we have here. Well, our first action is Claws. Very typical attack for most of the monsters, and this is going to be a +6 to hit. And let's just toss that in right now. +6 to hit. And then for our first attack will be 13 points of damage with no odd numbered half damage coming in here because we have an even number of d8s. If I had 3d8, then it would be a 17.5 damage. So that's our first attack, plus the Vicious Mockery as the attack number 4. Next, we have Illusory Appearance, and that just allows the hag to change their shape. All right, well, they're saying she, so allow her to change her shape. This really doesn't do much for combat except for getting the jump on the players. So in essence, we might say that the hag has the ability to get the upper hand because of the illusory appearance. Let's see here. The effect is held to a physical inspection. For example, the hag could appear to have smooth skin, but someone touching her would feel her rough flesh. So this could be a way to get the ambush ability as the doppelganger has here, which would give, let's see here, creatures have advantage on attack rolls against any creature it has surprised. So the illusory appearance may allow the hag to get surprise, and I'm already seeing that this might be a little lower for the OCR for the hag here. But let's take a look at Invisible Passage and see what this has to say. The hag magically turns invisible until she attacks or casts a spell, or until her concentration ends, as if concentrating on a spell. While invisible, she leaves no physical evidence of her passage, so she can be tracked only by magic. Any equipment she wears or carries is invisible with her. Alright. This is an action. It's not superior invisibility, but I feel as though this is, as I always say with any way of turning invisible, even if it is an action, it's going to delay combat. And the hag can either stay invisible permanently and try to escape, or move around to get some kind of advantage on the battlefield and then attack again with advantage. So we're going to go down to the superior invisibility and click that for the +2 effective AC bonus. So this is going to shift our hag up to a CR4 for defenses. Alright, well, we have all of our actions set up. Let's put the 13 points of damage into the total damage here. So we're looking at 13 for here, here, and here. Alright, well, as we can see in our chart right off the bat, and with the green here, our green hag is actually a balanced monster at CR3, provided the invisibility is used and is delaying combat, which is good. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it. I just think that it's odd. When you look in the DMG for all the monster traits, invisibility and superior invisibility are both there. But anytime I've found a monster that just has regular invisibility, it's always required to bring the CR up to where it's meant to be. So it's funny. In the DMG, like I said, in the trait section, the invisibility says, oh, there's no effect. You just don't use it. But then when it's superior invisibility, provided invisibility is able to be cast as a bonus action, then it gives the +2 AC bonus. But contrary to belief here, invisibility seems to be required regardless if it's regular or superior. So looking at our green hag, we have a DCR 4, which means she's a bit tankier than most instances, or probably other hags. And she has a lower OCR of 2, but it balances out to a 3 because, it would be 4 + 2 is 6, averaged out, we get a 3. And we can see here that our hag with a hit point rating of 82 falls somewhere in the middle of a DCR 1 base, and then is expecting an AC of 13. Because of the base AC of 17 and the superior invisibility bumping it up to an effective AC of 19, that's actually putting us +6 over the expected rating. And when we average that out of the 6 difference, we get a +3 shift from CR1 all the way up to CR4. And then similarly with the offenses, her 13 damage is a little bit on the higher end of the OCR section, but is a base OCR 1, expecting an attack bonus of 3. She actually has an attack bonus of 6, which is +3 over the expected. And when we average that out, we'll get 1.5, and we round down. That's only a +1 shift from the OCR 1 to an OCR 2. And then when we average those two numbers out, we get our CR3 for the green hag. So luckily, our green hag is another balanced monster, which is great to see. I prefer to see balanced monsters when we put these, when we put them through the motions here, and actually finding monsters that I don't need to fix. Sometimes generally when I notice is the lower monsters or ones that really need to be fixed, and the higher end monsters, you know, like epic encounters with Tiamat or Baphomet or something. All right, so let me come back over here and take my note to say that our green hag is indeed a balanced monster. Green hag, here you are. Evaluated. We'll put an A so I know that that's working out next. The DCR was a 4. The OCR was a 2. The final rating was a 3. And, wait, I think I got rid of something. Yeah, it's, oh, I see what I did here. Alright, I need to insert a column back to the left. Found. And then that would be even. Needs to use invis to gain CR3 rating. All right, or value. There we go. All right, there's our green hag. Let's take a look at another monster here. And finished up the green hag at 628. Just taking some notes here for cutting up the video later on. Vine Blight was 605 to somewhere around, I don't know, 615 maybe. All right. All right, what's next? Let's see here. What am I gonna look at? Well, I've had a bunch of calls for Strahd von Zarovich. I guess we'll take a look at Strahd, because I've already done the Mind Flayer. That was a 2-for-1 from last week, so I don't have to worry about that. And the Fire Giant is probably going to be really quick, really easy. So let's jump into Strahd. Let's see what we got here. And I have to pull up the Strahd booklet. Where are we at here? Here we go. Curse of Strahd. Thank you. All right. And Strahd. Von. Ooh, okay. Let's jump right down to the bottom and see if there is anything for Were Ravens. Perfect. Strahd zombies. Okay. Ah, there we go. All right, Strahd von Zarovich. This is going to take a while. Oh no. All right, let's see how far we can get. Let me zoom in a little bit. This is going to be a fun one. And I've kind of worked with Strahd in the past. I had someone ask for a little bit of help trying to figure out their custom monster based off of Strahd because of the Resident Evil 8 Village game and Lady D. I'm just going to call her Lady D because I don't know how to pronounce her name correctly. Anyways, Strahd von Zarovich, a medium undead. Alright, with 16 natural AC, 17 D8 hit dice, and a constitution bonus of 18. For the heck of it, let's throw in 15 wisdom and 18 charisma. And is expected to be a CR 15 vampire. Hey, Cornucopia. Yes, I am working on Strahd. This is a full page, so it might take more than the last half hour of this live stream. Let's see what happens. Alright, got the base stuff out of the way, skipping over stats. We do, in the skills section, have 3 saves of Dex, Wisdom, and Charisma. So, let's switch that saving throw section to the 3 to 4 saves, giving Strahd a +2 effective AC bonus. And we don't care about the skills, but Strahd does have damage resistance of necrotic, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks. So that's pretty great. We will switch this to resistance, giving Strahd a 1.25 times hit point bonus. And then after that, we have nothing else to really worry about here. So let's skip right down into the trait section and see that we have Shape Changer. Well, Shape Changer is great for the campaign, but not for determining Strahd's abilities and CR rating. So we skip Shape Changer. Cool. Legendary Resistance. Well, we can add that in right here for the Tarrasque and give Strahd the +3 legendary resistances that he has, for a total of 90 hit points added on to the base 144 that he already has, bumping it up to 270. As we can see here on the side, we're already getting into a DCR 14 so far without even having fixed or gone through anything else. Misty Escape is just good for when he dies or is defeated, knocked out. I don't want to say dies because he's a vampire. After that, we have Regeneration, which we can also add in here, which is going to add in some effective hit points. And every round, he's going to regain hit points unless something else happens to him. So, for the first 3 rounds of combat, he's going to gain an extra 60 hit points, which is bumping his DCR even further up to now an 18. And then we can skip over that because that's all we need for the regeneration. And then spellcasting. All right. Thankfully, I went through the trouble and made that whole thing of spell damage. So this is going to be a lot faster. So let's make a copy of the Acerak. And I'm just going to call this one Strahd. Once this loads up, I will clear everything out over here. Get rid of those. Let's see here. Don't need shield. And just to make sure everything here is cleared out. Alright, perfect. So, Strahd is a level 9 spellcaster. Surprising. And for his cantrips, at will, has Mage Hand, Prestidigitation, and Ray of Frost. Well, let's come over here to the cantrips and grab Ray of Frost. And Ray of Frost is right here. I'll just copy that. And he's level 9, so I'll need the 9 points of damage for that. Copy that in. Formats only. And box this one in so I know that this is the actual thing we're looking for. Why did that happen? Oh, that must have been from before. Okay. For Strahd's first level spells, he has Comprehend Language, Fog, Cloud, and Sleep. So no damage dealing spells there, although Sleep could be helpful. Doesn't help his CR right now. Second level spells, he has Detect Thought, Gust of Wind, and Mirror Image. Those don't help. Third level, we have Animate Dead, which is handy, but technically won't help his CR rating. Fireball, which is a common spell for pretty much all spellcasting monsters. Got a spellcasting monster? Fireball. Just throw it in there. Went too far. All right, so we'll throw Fireball in here. And he can cast up to what? 5th level spells only? All right. So we can get rid of these lower level spells here. After that, we have 4th level Blight, Greater Invis, and Polymorph. Greater Invis is probably what he's going to be concentrating on, or Animate Dead. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to say Greater Invis, because, hey, why not? All right. And on top of that, let's also throw Blight in, and Blight is a 4th level spell. So come over here, grab all that, copy pasta, and that goes so much faster. Yeah, I know that's an error. Let me just print the values, or paste the values only. And then after that, we have Animate Objects. Oh, dear lord. Okay. Animate Objects is the big one here. And Scrying. So for 5th level, this is going to be where Strahd is getting a ton of damage out of here. So, this spell is so crazy, I actually had to break it down into tiny objects, small, medium, large, and huge objects. Now, you can do a bunch of combinations of, all right, well, I want maybe, a couple small objects and one medium and maybe a large, but you don't get the most damage out of that. The most damage comes from either tiny or small objects, regardless of what level it's cast at. So if you were to grab one huge object and a couple tiny objects, the huge object would be the tank. The tiny ones would be kind of dealing the damage. Hold on, let's see here. Tidal Torrent. The fact that someone can do this with no difficulties is amazing to me. Well, thank you, Tidal. I appreciate the compliment. I really enjoy it. Math is a passion of mine. I actually have a bachelor's degree in computer science, so it's just a lot of fun, and D&D is another passion of mine, so I've just found a way to combine the two, and I've been doing this sort of stuff. So to get back into the Animate Objects, which is insane, we're going to take these small objects. So, for instance, we could say Strahd grabs a whole bunch of coins or whatever and animates those, and they start doing a lot of damage, as we can see here. All right, so we're gonna use the small objects just because this does the most amount of damage. Throw that in there, and oops, you know what? Let's redo that. Oh man, I'm so excited. I messed up my paste values. All right, and we'll get rid of that. Ah, look at that. Fireball actually beats out the animate objects. Surprising. But animate objects is a concentration spell, I believe. Let me see here. I just gotta double check something on my other come on. Animate objects. Yes, okay. Animate objects is a concentration spell. So that's going to be a whole bunch of damage on the base attack. So I'm going to hazard a guess that maybe this is the actual spell Strahd is concentrating on and not necessarily Greater Invis. But we still may need Greater Invis later on. Alright, so let's take a look here. Spell slots. What do we have for spell slots? Well, those are cantrips. We have 4, 3, 3, 3, and 1. Cornucopia says, can't believe that one of Strahd's most powerful features is his animated dinnerware. Yeah. He could just be in the dining room, animate all of his forks, knives, and spoons, and then they become lethal weapons. So that's a lesson for anyone here watching. If you ever play a sorcerer, a wizard, a warlock, or anyone that gets access to the animate objects, always make sure you have ball bearings, dinnerware, or coins, you know, even throwing down copper pieces, or as my buddy hates Electrum, you could use Electrum pieces as just objects of immediate death. And as we see here, when you upcast it even further, you know, you can get 117 points of damage from your animate objects at a spell level 9, which is insane. And you just, you know, you concentrated on it and then have them as a bonus action attack, which I believe is how that works. Yeah, you can mentally you can tell them to mentally do stuff on your turn. So that's going to be a lot of damage. That's really great. All right, let's figure out all of this spell damage. So what would we say? Actually, you know what? Let's hold off on that real quick and take a look at some of its other abilities before I go too much further. We got Spider Climb. So Strahd can Spider Climb creepily along the walls, which is perfect, and gets no effect from Spider Climb, unfortunately. Tidal Torrent. Someone wrote a song on YouTube to the tune of my best guess of a bard using animate objects to kill people. If you can find that link, I would really enjoy hearing that song, because that sounds hilarious. Title. Looking at Strahd's last trait he has, Vampiric Weakness. Surprisingly enough, this is probably going to have no effect on Strahd whatsoever, determining his CR values, because basically the CR is just kind of like a flex. That's really all it seems to be. So let's take a look at Strahd's actions before we calculate the spells it can do. And I'll do all that here just for the heck of it, since we're on this sheet. So the multi-attack, unarmed strike, do that there. Bite in bat or vampire form only. Charm is probably going to not really do much of anything. And Children of the Night. We'll do Children of the Night. And legendary actions. Move, unarmed strike, and bite. Okay. Let's see here. Legendary action 1, legendary action 2, legendary action 3. Let's see. What do we got here? So, unarmed strike. It's a melee weapon attack, 9 to hit, and is dealing 8 points of, technically 8.5 points of bludgeoning damage and 14 necrotic damage. And Strahd can grapple a target instead of dealing the bludgeoning damage. Well, the bludgeoning damage is technically going to be a little better, but let's take that into account later on. So our unarmed strike can do a total of 22.5 points of damage. The bite, on the other hand, can do, let's see here, what do we got? 9 to hit, 5 reach, deals, alright, 7.5 points of piercing damage, plus 10.5 points of necrotic damage, and then their health points go down. Alright, so we have a total of 18 damage from the bite. Let's see here. Title said, I got the link to the YouTube. Should I paste it here or someone else here? No, Title. I don't have any moderators, so it should go through. Go ahead and try and link the, paste the link and let's see if it goes through. Otherwise, like try stretching it out or something so it doesn't look like a link, like cut off the .com or something if it doesn't go through the first time. Alright. And then Charm, let's see here. Charm's thing is all about, taking control of someone, which is helpful. The Children of the Night. Strahd magically calls 2d4 swarms of bats or swarms of rats, provided the sun isn't up. While outdoors, Strahd can call 3d6 wolves instead. The called creatures arrive 1d4 rounds, acting as allies of Strahd and obeying his spoken commands. The beasts remain for 1 hour. Children of the Night probably doesn't do anything. More than likely, Children of the Night may add in some damage, but because they're swarms and they're such low damage, that may not help. Although on the one thing, it is like some nickeling and diming. So let's see what we end up doing with the spell damage and some of the legendary actions here. Alright, so the first legendary action is no effect because it's just moving without provoking attacks of opportunity. Technically, that could be plus 2 damage per round based off of the aggressive trait like orcs have. If that's not the case, then, I mean, it's great, but unless you really need to move, I'm sure it all depends on the situation of combat. That'll certainly be extremely handy. But let's take a look at the unarmed strikes here. So we have 3 uses of unarmed strikes. So we'll do the unarmed strikes times 3, totaling out to 67.5 points of damage. And then the last legendary action is bite. So he can do a bite, which costs 2 actions, and then we would also add in a unarmed strike just to round that out as well. So we would get a bite plus 1 unarmed strike for a total of 40.5 points of damage. So it's not the greatest. And if we were going for straight, pure damage, let's see here. I would say probably animate objects first as his action. And that would also technically be the bonus action, right? Let's see here. Yeah, it takes an action to cast animate objects, and then as a bonus action, you can tell them to attack. So that's going to be the first round of combat, and then after that, we're looking at the 65 points of damage again, each time telling the animated objects to do something else. Then, and also, we have all the legendary actions that Strahd can do. So we're going to add in, just for the heck of it, the unarmed strikes. And then after that, oh, I also forgot the multi-attack. Let's take 2 steps back here. Strahd makes 2 attacks, only one of which can be a bite. Well, the funny part is that the multi-attack is better if he takes 2 unarmed strikes. So we'll just multiply that times 2 for 45 points of damage. I mean, he can bite if he needs to bite, but it's, it's there. Title, if you want, just leave the name of the YouTube account then if you can't paste it in. I'm not sure if you're trying to paste or not, or if you're having trouble. Or if my chat has lagged out or something. Alright, so what would be his next action in combat? If we're looking at straight damage, then Fireball would be the next thing. He would cast a Fireball for rounds 2 and 3. That's our maximum amount of damage here. So, and I only say that because the multi-attack is so low at 45 points of damage maximum here. So we would come in here, take a Fireball for round 2 and another Fireball for round 3, as well as telling his animated silverware, dinnerware, as Cornucopia told us, to go around and attack players, and then also doing a whole bunch of unarmed strikes from his legendary actions. So we're looking at a total of 174 points of damage between, round 1, animating the objects, and then telling them to move around. Round 2, throwing a fireball, dealing with the animated objects again, and then doing some more legendary actions, and then a rinse repeat for round 3 until he's out of, spell level 4 slots, which is only 3 of. Let's see here. The video is called Meet My Friends by Cami Cat. Cool. Thank you for throwing that in there, title. I'm guessing there's some kind of default setting that doesn't allow you to put links up, or maybe I hit something a while back. I don't know. Sorry about that if it was giving you trouble. But thank you for putting the info in there. I don't believe, looking back here at Strahd's attack patterns, there's any way to get higher damage. I think this is the maximum amount of this is the maximum way to get as much damage out as possible in the first 3 rounds of combat. I'm sure we could play with some stuff, but more than likely, this is going to be the maximum way to do it right here. So we're going to take 174 and throw that into the tool to see what we get for the OCR. So come over here, and every round will just be a copy of that, since we already did the work on the other spot. So 174 points of damage, and I need his plus to hit, which is 9. Which is, right around average. All right. 9 to hit. Well, I mean, here's something. We've got a CR20. CR20 for Strahd von Zarovich. Okay. This is a highly underrated vampire, especially if you just go the attack route that I've suggested by hurling fireballs and summoning up the dinnerware. And that's not even taking into account the charm and the Children of the Night. If we were to add in the Children of the Night damage, it would probably shift it a little bit more, but it is what it is. I would say that those swarms of bats, rats, or the wolves that come in are acting on their own accord, and they would just be the XP value that they give off as well. So, from the looks of things, we've got DCR 18 coming from, what do we have here? The modified hit points is 330, which puts us at a DCR of 18, expecting an AC of 19. Strahd has a base of 16, but with all of his modifications, it's an 18. So if we come back over the chart, that's actually -1 under the expected, but because it's only it's a 1 difference, there's no shift to the DCR, and our DCR is an 18. Now for 174 points of damage, that's a little bit on the higher end of an OCR 22, expecting an attack bonus of 11. Actually, let's shift that a little bit because we're using spells to attack with. So what is Strahd's DC rating here? It's down here, and it's an 18. That might actually shift it just a tiny bit. So let's switch that here. Although he is doing a whole bunch of hits with the legendary action, so it would be... Let's go back to his spell damage tracker for a minute. So each of these is going to be 3 hits. So that's a total of 9 physical hits. But we have a load of animated objects that are not really hitting as effectively. The 2 hit for our small or tiny objects is kind of on the low side, so they may not be doing nearly as much damage as we see here, but based off of the average, we could say that this is roughly what we're getting. And then he's only also doing 2 fireballs in the first 3 rounds of combat. So it looks like the 9 to hit is actually correct. So let's go back to this. I mean, if we throw in the 18 that he has, and just for the heck of it, see how that would shift things. He's still a CR20. Doesn't matter. All right. Put that back to a 9. And what do we have here? So we have 174 points of damage, which puts us into an OCR of 22, expecting an attack bonus of 11. He has an attack bonus of 9. That's actually -2 under the expected, resulting in a -1 shift from 22 to 21. So, as powerful as he is, he technically isn't hitting as often as he should with his attack bonus. But his hit points and his armor class are all right where they're supposed to be. So, technically he's a little weaker, in essence, if he's slinging all these, all these fireballs and whatnot around. I'm going to take a guess that if we don't count in all of the magic that he's using and just go off of his multi-attacks and the legendary actions, we might have a totally different thing going on here. So let's take a look at that while we have some time left. So if Strahd is just running around punching people in the face with his unarmed strikes, in the guts, hitting people wherever, let's see what that looks like. So rounds 1 through 3 are all going to be the same. We're just looking at a whole bunch of unarmed strikes. This is going to be silly. And then our extra damage for legendary actions, we have 112. So we're looking at a difference of, what is that, 62 points of damage? No, I shouldn't say it's not a lot. That actually is a pretty decent amount. So let's throw in 112 here and see what that shifts us down to. Oh, and perfect. All right. Oh, okay. So it only shifts Strahd down 2 and actually completely levels him out. He is a CR 18 across the board, not using any magic whatsoever. If he calls in his creatures of the night, he would get some support damage from there, but, at this level where you're fighting Strahd, a CR, and I put this in air quotes, a CR 15, players are just going to fireball those creatures of the night. They got, no resistance unless something else says otherwise here. So, as a caster, Strahd is a CR 20. As a melee, which he will eventually become because he'll run out of spell slots, he's a CR 18. As we can see here, right across the board, DCR, OCR, it's all 18. This is ridiculous. And he's supposed to be a CR 15. At least by the custom monster rules. I don't know if D&D has their own special set of rules about how to calculate these CRs. Strahd is very underrated, in my opinion, and especially if he's just slinging fireballs and dinnerware. This is a drastic change, or a drastic shift that players, I'm gonna guess, are probably maybe CR 11 or not CR, player level 11 or so, trying to fight Strahd as an epic encounter by himself. This might be more than they expected or counted on. And there we have it. Strahd von Zarovich, a very underrated vampire. Well, unless there's anything else we have in the last few minutes here, I'm going to wrap this stream up and thank everyone that stopped by. Frigid Gold, Boom Shakalaka, Cornucopia, and Tidal Torrent. Thank you all for showing up for the live stream. It's been fun having you here. I appreciate the effort and watching and hanging out and chatting with me about this stuff. Tidal, thank you for the recommendation on the video. I'm actually going to take a note of that now so I don't lose it. Let's see here. Meet my friends by Cammy Cat. Cool. All right, I have that saved. And yeah, there's 3 monsters for you for tonight's live stream. We looked at the Vine Blight, the Green Hag, and Strahd von Zarovich. 2 of which were perfectly balanced. The third one was very underrated. Thank you, Tidal. It's great to see that you enjoyed the stream. You have yourself a good day or night as well, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you, Cornucopia, for also participating and joining up when you could. I don't expect everyone to be there right at the beginning. Maybe in a couple years or something when I have more followers, but I appreciate you showing up nonetheless. And yes, the VOD will be up for watching later on. Oh, Soaked Soccer. Hi. Thank you for watching along, and you have a good night as well. I'm going to wrap this up in a few minutes and go get myself some dinner. If there's anything else, I'll be here for a couple more minutes. So if you have questions for me about this process, feel free to ask away. I am a wealth of useless or very useful D&D information. Really depends on how you want to look at it. I've made too much room in my brain for D&D. It's so bad in some cases when I'm when I'm a player, I have to really bite my tongue from being a backseat DM half the time, because it just jumps right to me in a lot of the answers and to the questions people have on occasion. Let's see here. Take a look at some stats while I wait for these couple minutes here. Yes, Soaked Soccer asked if I had done the Demi-Lich before. The Demi-Lich is an older shorts. I didn't do it like this where I explained everything about them, the Demi-Lich, but it is a shorts video. So if you go back to when the monsters all had this like tan paper background, you'll see the giant green gem inlaid eye-socketed skull floating there. It's an interesting one, especially from the scream that it has. That's a very bizarre monster, and it's kind of like I think it's the correct CR. I have a couple of those monsters: the Demi-Lich, the Rakshasa, and the Tarask. Let's see here. Anyone else? The Tarask. Those three definitely are ones I'm like, yeah, I think. Oh, yeah. Please check them all out. There's like over 100 shorts, and I just quickly blaze through, giving you the most important information in the shorts videos. So if you're ever wondering like why there's so much more to a monster, I'm only showing you the items I use to find the CR value, be it underrated, overrated, or exactly even. All right, Soaked Soccer, thanks for joining, and I will catch you next time. Have a good night.